beautiful souls. Welcome to Sacred Heart Awakenings. I am actually doing a spontaneous live Facebook at the moment. It's not my usual time. However, I cannot make my usual time of Friday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. But I should be able to start that next week. But I wanted to just spontaneously get on with delivering this message for this week's Love Wisdom. And sharing, the question to reflect on. Is grief holding you back from living? Have you lost the motivation to want to continue, and you feel that grief is holding you back from that, or the desire to even want to be with somebody, and in some ways it's affecting you in your love life as well, in so many ways, in grief and stress. So I'm Monica Bermudez, and I am an intuitive self-love energy healer. And I am here to share a message about, wanted to share 13 key steps or, ways to help you navigate from grief using self-care tips. And I will also discuss some of the studies found on sadness and grief and what it does to your body as well. So just also before I start, I want to mention that so today's Friday. It's October 30. So it's a day before this full moon takes its peak of energy, and it's actually been coming in very strong. I don't know how many people are feeling it. So I just wanted to kind of talk about that astrologically with some of the energies going on at the moment, as we're about to end the month of October with a big bang, because this is the second full moon that we're having for the month, which is known as the blue moon. And supposedly this one is very big and powerful. We are still in the midst of the Mercury retrograde, which is supposed to end next week. And we also have some of the Mars retrograde as well, and some other planets in retrograde, which means there's a lot of internal processing happening to us, and shifting and releasing patterns that no longer serve us and no longer serve our highest good. So I just wanted to remind you and recommend to use this powerful full moon energy to your own benefit, and start to work on what you want to release in your life and what you want to end as karmic cycle, or even like your own ancestral cycles. And the things that you do to heal yourself also supports your whole ancestry and your whole family lineage. And your ancestors want you to know that anything you do, they're willing to support you in that as well, whatever energy shift you're doing. So I just wanted to share that to remind you about the energies this weekend and the powerful energy. And also the moon is a full moon, but it's also super moon, meaning that it's very close to Earth's proximity than usual, which adds more energy, moon energy impact. And on top of that, this week there's been breaking news with NASA about the discovery of water on the moon. And I feel it's very significant, because water is a symbol of purification, and our bodies are mostly made of water. So the moon and water are very closely aligned, and to have the information about finding water on the moon is almost a way of saying releasing those things that no longer serve you, so that you are able to purify yourself. And so that's the message that I'm getting for all of you. So I wanted to share that. And I love that the mission for NASA is called Sophia, because Sophia means wisdom. And there's a lot of the magic of the divine feminine flow that is also coming in, becoming more known, more well known, and bringing into union with our divine masculine. It's almost like the return of the divine feminine, and it's helping us go through these changes and go with the divine flow. And flow, being water, because water is flowy. And so just trusting right now what's happening and what's coming up for you. So we love to hear from you and share, how the energies have been for you. I know there's been stuff coming up for me as well, but just remember about the balance we talked about with the heart. So I want to get into the topic that we're here to talk about with the video about grief and sadness, and how I've been reading about how certain case studies, like the Harvard Health Publishing, has published many articles and studies, many cases on what grief does to the body, and it does so many things to the physical body itself, especially the heart. So it impacts the whole immune system and the organs in so many ways. Extreme stress can cause blood clots in the heart, and also change the whole blood chemistry. So it could worsen even like any illness you may have. It just makes it worse. And even if you are healthy, it also has a huge toll and impact on your body in so many ways. So certainly it's not the way you want to live. It's not the way you're meant to live, and it's not the way that you don't deserve to be in this sadness and grief if that is affecting you in your life. And studies have also shown that there is a stress, they call it a stress-induced cardiomyopathy when it's extreme stress. In other words, that translates to a broken heart syndrome. So the studies actually call it the broken heart syndrome, because what happens is that when there's so much stress, that there's a side of the heart just kind of shuts down, and then it almost feels like your heart is broken. It's almost like a heart attack, and you can't breathe, and you cause like all these blood clots to come up, and so physically healthy is not it's impacting your body in so many ways, because our thoughts, our emotions, and now looking at it from a different perspective, that was the physical side of the studies that people have done, but looking at it from a more spiritual side of how in the quantum physics world, when we think, when we feel, all of that is also impacting ourselves in many ways. So the body will react when something is not in alignment with something that's sad or angry or grief or frustration or any of those type of emotions, which also generates certain patterns of negativities that bring you down. So it's much lower vibrational type thoughts and ways of thinking. So everything, your whole system gets impacted. And so, looking at it from the spiritual side of things, we also fall into this, when it's extreme stress, you could fall into this depression as well, which also, all of it is a part of what many people call the dark night of the soul. And I personally feel that, for those who are light workers, who are mostly listening to this video or having empathy, if you're a person that has so much empathy, you it will feel much stronger. The emotion, the heartbreak feels stronger because you feel more, and I feel that's the case for most light workers, and so that's why we fall into this, what we call the dark night of the soul, because it just feels like a never-ending void of emptiness and loneliness and just sadness and grief, and just not wanting to continue, not wanting to live. And that was certainly my case. After my divorce, it triggered my most intense dark night of the soul. And so all of this, studies about the grief is for sure that it does bring a toll to your body in so many ways, which I would like to share, these 13 keys for self-care to help you navigate through that grief that you're going through, if you're going through it, which also helped me when I was going through my own personal sadness, grief, and depression during that dark night of the soul. So, and just a reminder that if you really do find yourself, going through such bad situation, there's always help out there for you, no matter what you're doing. So don't ever feel that you are alone, because you're not. So jumping into these 13 keys of steps of self-care. Number one, you definitely want to pay attention to red flags. You want to listen to your gut feeling, and if something feels off, or something or someone may feel off to you, your body does tell you, and this is a form of your own guides talking to you as well through your body. So pay attention to any red flags that may come up, that you need certain self-care. Number two, speak your truth with clarity and with love. So I say love because oftentimes truth is confused with conflict. So just remember to maintain the balance, and no need for harshness or conflict, or talking with the polarity, when you could just talk with clarity and use with love. You can still get your message, because you can still get your message across very strong, and love is very strong force. So just remember that love is actually much stronger than any of the other, like, lower vibrational emotions, like anger or frustration or hate. I know that, being human is not an easy thing. Of course, we live in this world of polarity, but to be able to control your emotions in that way of your own reaction, it also helps you grow spiritually, and it uplifts you, and it expands you, because that is the energy of love. And number three, don't aim to please others. So don't fall into this polarity trap of, oh, I must, agree with everything this person's saying just to make them happy, or just to be around with. If I say this, then everything will go wrong and it won't work out. If you're in a place or with someone just to please them, then you really have to assess that relationship with that person, or in that situation that you find yourself. If you're not able to speak your own truth, which is, number two, which is speaking with clarity, with love, and no need to hide who you are. But again, it's like you can't please everybody. You can't please some people, and that's part of us being human. And if those people are not meant to be in your life, then that's, a different path they choose to follow, and that you choose to follow as well. And that's okay for both parties. It's whatever, feels right for both of you at the moment. And number four, trust your intuition. More than ever, we do need this now in this 2020 year that we are just starting this decade. We're definitely going to need all the support we can with our own intuition. So start trusting that intuition. And that also ties in with number one, where you're listening to the red flags, your gut feeling. Number four, number five are connected. And number five is develop your intuition. So work on getting it super accurately. And there are ways to do that by being out in nature and doing meditation and tuning in with your higher self. And so those are ways to just start developing them and really working to strengthen it and its accuracy. And that's the way also for you to communicate with your guides. And number six, don't speak ill of yourself. It's natural in its natural for humans to say that for people, it's easy for people to start, to blame themselves for when things don't go well their own way. They start to beat themselves up, and I did it, many times for years after, going through heartbreak after heartbreak in relationships. I would always blame myself for it, and just really mistreat myself. So then at that point, you really have to just start realizing that, okay, there is some part that may have caused, some of the situation, but it doesn't mean that you're going to beat yourself up for it. There's no need for you to be treat yourself with illness, or speak ill of yourself. So just mind your words and thoughts of how you treat yourself. And number 7, don't give up on your goals and dreams as long as they are in alignment with your highest good and in alignment with the highest good of others. Because remember, everything that we do does impact our life and what we do. In this point, this key right here, I just want to talk a little bit because it reminds me of a book that I read. It's called Women Who Run with Wolves. So the message, is for women, but this also applies for men. So men also have the divine feminine in them, so they carry the energy of the creativity. But I want to talk about a story in that book about a legend in Mexico about a woman in the legend they call her La Llorona, which is the crying woman. And the story goes about her falling in love with this man from the local town, and so they fell in love. They end up being together. She ends up having 2 children with him, but they never wed. It turns out that he was already married, but they end up living together and they have these 2 kids. And he wasn't wed yet, but he apparently had like money, so he was having like this arranged marriage that he had to, because of family reasons and because of their own financial reasons, he was being forced to marry some other woman. And so when he came to tell her that he could not marry her because he needs to fulfill his own family obligation of, this whole thing with maintaining their financials and so forth, that he chose to marry this other woman for those reasons. And so, of course, the woman, La Llorona, was so heartbroken that she went into the spiraling grief and depression and sadness to the point that she ended up killing her 2 children and killing herself. So the moral of the story, it's not a true story, it's just a legend of a story, but it has some analogy and some metaphor to it. The point is that the children that come out of us is a part of our creativity. So when you create projects, when you create a business, that is like a child that you are bringing into this world, that it's manifesting out of you. So it's about creation and manifestation. So what the message is saying is that she killed her dreams and her goals for somebody else. So rather than her, focusing on the things that she had in front of her and the sacrifice, herself for someone else, it's not the way that it is for us. Not in this lifetime, not ever, and it's not meant for you to be that way. So just think carefully, about that message and what choices you're making and what you're doing in your life. And think about the projects and the things around your life that, are being impacted by those choices and the things that you're doing. So I just really love that message from that book. I recommend it to anybody to read it. And there was actually a horror movie that came out, and I think it was called La Llorona. And maybe it's based on that whole legend, Mexican legend about this woman. But it is a very interesting metaphor. And analogy to use about our creativity, our creative power that we hold, and what happens, when we crush those goals and those dreams, when we should be taking care of ourselves and keep moving forward, no matter what's happening in your situation. Just know that you are being supported by your guides and you have so much love. So that was, a long message, but for number 8, it's okay to say no. So this ties into the healthy boundaries. And I know for a fact that sometimes some people, it's very difficult to say no and feel like they have to say yes, which ties into one of the other key points, to please everybody. So you can't please everybody. Remember, we're in this human world of polarity. And so the one thing you got to remember is, if you reach the maximum capacity and you really know that you can't take on anymore, then just know yourself well enough to say no. And just, it's also a part of a self-love act for yourself to really say, I can't really do this, or, for example, let me check my schedule on something before you commit to something, before saying yes, and just, if you really cannot meet it, then say no, because otherwise, if you keep taking on more and more, it's just going to create more stress for you as well. And that was my case for me for many years. Before, after like all my heartbreaks, I started to realize that I was always a giver and a giver and giver. I just didn't know how to say no. I didn't know about healthy boundaries. I had none. And it was always like, I have to say yes, because otherwise this person will, it's a pleasing thing. If I say no, this person won't like me anymore. And so that's not the case. Because when you have your own self-love and your own foundation, your own strength, you hold yourself to that. You show yourself your own self-love when you're able to say no with love, to keep your own healthy boundary, to keep your own energy field intact. And it's almost like the story of like when, now that we're getting close to Halloween, it's the story of the whole thing with the vampire, using that as an analogy. The only way that the vampire could come into your house was if you invited the vampire. And so if you said yes, the vampire comes in and, sucks your blood. So you can think of it this way. If you keep saying yes and not really having those healthy boundaries of, not knowing when to say no, then you can have energy vampire suckers out there, who could really drain you from your own energy as well. So just keep that in mind for this one key point. So the number 9 is, you want to treat yourself with respect, kindness, and compassion. And so it goes back to the whole thing about learning how to say no. If you are able to maintain those healthy boundaries, then you're also showing kindness, respect, and compassion for yourself. And these are all aspects and attributes of self-love itself. Number 10, learn to let go. So you may want to detach yourself from anything that you feel you must control. And at times we want to control every situation in our life because that is how we keep ourselves safe. But these days, the way things have been going for 2020, we've been forced in some ways to stay home, as an example, with quarantine. And so we had no control over that. So that's an example of learning to detach, let go, and just go with the divine flow of the things of what's happening, trusting the universe where it's taking you. The same thing applies for any situation or even people in your life and relationships. If you really want to love this person or be with this person, but they're not meeting you where you want them to meet you in your life, or they feel like they're drifting away from you. and you just don't know what to do. You really want them to change their ways, and really you're just spending your energy on something that, or someone who doesn't want to change. So there's this whole thing about other people's free will. So if the person doesn't want to change, then don't stress. Don't spend your energy of trying to change that person, because you can't change them. The only one who you can change is yourself. You can have an influence on the other person or try to influence them in some other ways, but it doesn't mean you have to be with them just because you've been with them for so long and you've invested so much time. It would only just drain you and bring you down. And I did do that so much in my previous relationships, where I felt that I had to be with this man for so long and help them get through whatever they were going through. But like many of you, it was just the healer side of me, or the light worker side of me, who was trying to help. But I later learned that this is not the way to live. It's definitely not a healthy relationship in any way. And it's not for you in any way if you're chasing, it's like chasing ghosts. And so just remember that you can't change others in that way and force them to change if they're not willing to. So that's something to remember, and it's a reminder for myself as well. I have to keep reminding myself as I help and support others, and the healing practice that I do, it's really how committed the other is and the willingness to want to make that change and what they want to change in their life. And number 11, cut out any drama or negativity from your life. So if you are being attracted to certain drama or gossip with other people, or you feel that other people are just draining you in that way, then you gotta just evaluate that in your life and cut out any drama or negativity that's in your life. And especially if you're going through sadness and grief, I highly recommend that you hang out with people who are more positive and uplifting, because you need that right now in your life. So if you're with the drama or negativity, it's just gonna make it feel worse. It's not gonna make it feel any better. So right now you need to be around positive reinforcement and support in so many ways. So number 12, which brings us to number 12, and connection to the number 11, connect with someone who can support you as a healer or a mentor or a coach, and helping you get through any form of your grief that you're going through. So if you do feel guided or getting a nudge to get the help, you will get the nudge and the support to know who to go to for that support. And number 13, the last key, keep yourself balanced, and just watch out for any polarities and take the time that you need in your own space, and just be yourself, and just keep yourself from too much of this negative drama like we talked about before, and just maintaining that balance in yourself and keeping your own peace, and just getting through the grief. And so these are the 13 keys of self-care, and I hope they do help you in healing from this grief and sadness in your life if you're going through it. Or just remember, if you do go through it, you can listen to this again as well. And so just some reminders and key points for you to help you as you navigate through some of these changes as things come up, because we're human and we're still learning, we're expanding. We live in a world of duality, and that's where we have our light and our shadow aspect. But remember, whatever is happening for you, that you are a being of light. You are a being of love. You're not alone. And your guides want you to know that you are so loved. And they want you to know that they're with you at all times. So do reach out to them for support as well. They are with you constantly. So, and if you're feeling the nudge or, the support for the guidance, I have designed a Sacred Heart Awakenings breakthrough session for conscious men and women who are curious about exploring some of these areas around their own heart. So basically doing an energy heart diagnosis. And if there are things that you want to do, you want to get out of this grief and get out there and start meeting others, and you're feeling that you need to reach out to back into the dating life, for example. You don't want to be alone anymore. You want to be in a healthy relationship. So this is the session for you. So please, reach out to me. The information, the website is in my Facebook messages. But if you're watching this on YouTube, it's in the description area. And so I welcome you, and just go to my website and just click apply. And I would love to talk and connect with you and helping you, support you and what your needs are and what's going on with you at the moment. So just remember that you deserve better, and you deserve to be in a healthier relationship. And now is the time for us to be in alignment with love and with joy, because that is also the way for our own ascension, as the frequencies on this earth are increasing and expanding and growing. And so a lot of things may be coming up in karmic patterns and ancestral patterns as well. And so just remember to keep that balance in your life, and just shift it with some joy, some other form of music or support, talking to somebody. Just go over the 13 key steps that we just discussed and really reflect on them and apply them in your life, and just meditate on them. And so I'm wishing you, so if you're watching this on YouTube, also just a reminder, please click subscribe and the bell next to it, as I will be providing more videos. I've been posting videos twice a week, Sunday morning and Monday morning, and I'll be posting video love wisdom messages like this one, as well as other videos with nature, especially now that, if you can't go out, then you can watch some of the nature videos to help you connect with the outdoors, and other messages that not necessarily are in the Facebook Live, but just additional messages for you regarding relationships, or even like angels and support, and light language as well, because I do channel light language. So I look forward to connecting with you in the next video, and sending you so much love. So take good care of yourself, and I'll talk to you soon. So bye for now.